2021 when I was listening to President Nelson, and he was like, these are the latter days. Like, you need to build a firm foundation. And I was like, he's right. Like, what have I been doing? I haven't been doing these type of things. Like, I mean, I love the gospel. I'm serving in my callings, but am I all in?
I stay.
I stay.
I stay.
I stay.
I stay.
I stay.
I'm staying here.
To whom else shall we go?
The Why I Stay podcast, where we find joy in staying in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm your host, Lindsay Clyde, and I want to ask you, why do you stay?
How do we be a peacemaker online? Especially when we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If we share any little itty bitty thing that we believe in, people just love to jump on top of our posts and just comment away. And how can we think celestial in these times? How can we keep peace in our hearts and not add to the spirit of contention that exists online? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Lindsay Clyde. We are here with the Why I Stay podcast, and we've got Shayla Egan today, who is a content creator online, LDS prepper girl, where she's been putting stuff out there, trying to share light. And what happens? The light's coming, and then there's always a shadow cast behind. It's always right there behind you. So today we're going to hear a little bit about that, and also about a miracle that her family experienced during 2020 with her little girl after an accident. So really cool stories. I'd love to have you share this episode with a friend. And also, if you'd like to come on the podcast, I'm getting lots of people asking to come on the podcast, and I'm so excited. But that doesn't mean that you're off the hook. Okay. Email me, whyistaypodcast@gmail.com, because we need you. We need your light, your individual experience. You never know who you're going to touch and whose life you will change when you open your mouth and share your testimony. Okay. Without further ado, let's go. Shayla Egan. Shayla, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Here we go. We are going to have some fun times today. First, we're going to do some rapid fire get to know you questions. Then we'll get your exploratory questions to just deep dive, a little small deep dive into your experience in living the gospel. And then you get the question that everybody gets. Why do you stay in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? So are you ready for the rapid fires?
Oh yeah, I'm excited. Hit me up.
Here we go. Shayla, how old are you?
I am 36.
Do you have any nicknames?
Shaby is my nickname, or Shaby Baby.
Cute.
I have a sister-in-law named Shayla.
Oh, no way.
Yes, and so it's kind of funny. So my extended family calls me Shaby. That was my nickname growing up. My dad gave me that nickname.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when I hear Shayla, I feel like I'm in trouble because everyone calls me Shaby.
That's cute. What state do you live in?
Utah.
What's your favorite food?
Fettuccine Alfredo.
With or without chicken?
Without chicken.
Okay, here we go.
Give me the breadsticks with it.
The breadsticks, yes.
Yes.
What's your current hobby?
Oh, running. Running and being a mom. I mean, I don't know if being a mom is a hobby, but I love it. It's the best.
Oh, it's so refreshing to hear that. I love that. What is your favorite calling that you've ever held?
Young Women's. I was the first counselor in Young Women's, and the youth, not only do they keep me trendy, but they are so special and they have such a special spirit about them. And I just love being with them.
I feel like that's a common theme. Everybody says that same thing when they work with the youth. There really is something special about our today's youth, which we need so badly.
Yes. Oh, so badly.
What is a controversial opinion that you hold? Something like light and easy, like everybody loves Crocs, but you hate them.
Yeah. Oh man. With my tacos, I love ketchup with tacos. And growing up, I thought that was normal until I went to high school, and I was made fun of because they're like, you can eat salsa with tacos, but not ketchup with tacos. And we are big ketchup people in my family. So I know that can be a little controversial, putting ketchup on tacos.
That's so funny because my dad does that too. And like we grew up eating it, and we lived in Arizona too, so that was almost like heresy, but it was normal for us. So that's a great controversial opinion. I love it. What is your biggest dream?
Oh, I'm living the dream right now, to be honest. And if I had any bigger dream, it would probably like move out into and have a farm with my kids and have some farmland where I can grow crops and have more farm animals and be able to do way more prepping things than I want. But right now, I feel like I am living the dream.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. What is something about you that is the same now as it was when you were in high school?
Oh, I'm a big hugger. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny. I am like, I'm very outgoing and I'm bubbly and I call myself, I'm a bubbly introvert where I do love to be home all the time. But when I'm out, I like to talk to people. And so if you don't even know me and you come up and you say hi, I'll just give you a hug. I'm a big hugger.
That makes everyone feel super special, I'm sure. Last question, bonus question.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one that I just make up on the spot for everybody. So yours is you've got your biggest dream, you've got your
hmm
land, you've got your farm,
hmm
and you've got some animals. Who is your favorite animal and what is its name?
So it's so funny because we have chickens right now, and we have these two chickens that I absolutely love. They follow you, they're like dogs. We even have a dog that I love, but they will follow you around and they almost like bark at you, but they're clucking at you.
That's awesome.
And we have one named Golden and then we have one named Peach. And so I would just bring those babies in and those would be my dream animal
Your dream
because they
animals.
lay eggs for me and then they're like my little dogs that run around.
That's so cute. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for answering my prying questions. That's going to bring us into our exploratory ones, which the first one we've got for you today is what is a basic principle of the gospel that you've gained a testimony of recently?
Well, I've been thinking about a lot about principles, right? Because I feel like Elder Bednar talks a lot about
Mm,
principles and doctrine. But one thing that has really stuck with me more than anything is President Nelson and his talks about thinking celestial and being a peacemaker. And a lot of the times, I think you would understand this too. When you share your life on social media and you share your beliefs, you get a lot of criticism. Like there's people out there that are not nice.
mm,
And sometimes you'll get a lot of nice people, but then you get that one mean comment, right? And you're just like, fumes you up and it makes you angry. And I think there is a reason why our prophet has come out with us talking about thinking celestial because these people that are attacking us, they're hiding behind screens and they're hiding, and there's no consequence to their actions. And so we shouldn't be, getting in and causing controversy and contention. And instead we should just be loving or just completely ignore it. We got to think ahead, right? And so I have built a huge testimony towards thinking celestial, being kind, being a peacemaker. And I have noticed on my page, when I'm responding to some of these people, not all of them, some of them I
mm-hmm.
just block,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there was one post I did. This was earlier when I started sharing on my page, and they were upset with me because I shared that I wear a cross, and they were upset. And I was kind of talking about John Hilton's book, Considering the Cross, and
Mm-hmm. I've read
how
that.
love that book. And
Yeah.
that book changed my life. And I felt like I had a deeper connection with Jesus Christ from learning what he went through.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people that were upset about that. And I did the best I could to be kind on each comment, even though they were mean, they were mocking my physical looks, the way I spoke. I mean, anything you could think of. And on each one, I kept thinking, okay, think celestial on this, think celestial on this. And while I did that, I had someone message me. They're not a member of the church, but he thanked me and he said, I went down and read every single comment and response that you made. And he goes, and because of how kind you were, he goes, it made me want to look into the LDS church. And he goes, and I'm meeting with the missionaries. And
Wow.
now I haven't been in contact with him since, but that just shows you right there, even behind the scenes, we don't know what impact we are making by the way we're treating others. I mean, not even only online, but in person. And that's why I think, I mean, I know it's not an exact principle, but it is a teaching from the prophet that that is a way we can gather Israel is by being a peacemaker and thinking celestial.
I think that is right on the money, and especially as we are approaching an election. I was going to say an awful election. I just have like PTSD from the last one anyway, but
Yeah.
like it's a skill. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. And it's something that you have to reach deep inside. And I know this because I have had to do this too recently. Just as you come up with all these responses in your head that you'd like to say, but then the spirit
Mm-hmm.
whispers to you, that's not what's going to make a difference. That's not what's going to help them. And I know, because I've been experiencing that if we can follow your example here and either not respond or just try and say something kind, we will be a light, and we can look back at our actions and feel proud of ourselves. Thinking ahead, thinking celestial, and being a peacemaker. I definitely think those are basic principles of the gospel, because if we can't do that, we're not going to get very far. We're not going to
Yeah.
last, because the spirit of contention will drive the spirit of God away.
Yep. Yep.
And what are you going to do
yeah.
without the spirit of God, right? Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and Elder Budnar has said this quite a few times, and it has really stuck with me. And it's a question that he gets asked a lot, and people are like, how do we respond to these people online, when they are attacking your religion and they're attacking you, and like, how do you respond? And he goes, we aren't here to defend the gospel. We're here to declare. We are here to proclaim. And so that's how I try to look at it. And that's how even Christ, when he taught, he was never defending, he was always teaching. And so sometimes when we need to respond to a loved one or someone that's, mean to you, do it with love, but do it by teaching them.
And that can be so hard. And I would just say to anybody out there who wants to do this but is struggling or doesn't know where to start, just try. You're going to make mistakes. You're probably not going to, this is what I've done. I don't always say the right things. And it's hard when you're trying to represent Jesus Christ. But as we just try, the atonement of Jesus Christ, his atonement, his sacrifice will make up for those things. So go ahead and try and let the Spirit into your life. I love that so much. Thank you. All right, that moves us to our next question, which is, what is an experience that increased your maturity or courage in living the gospel?
So there's been a lot. I feel like with maturity, I think you get more and more mature as you grow up. And honestly, I feel like my maturity, it got better once I hit 30. It's just like, like sometimes you'll go hang out with youth and you're all like, oh, was I like this before? And I love my youth. It's just your maturity changes. And I do feel like it's the same way when it comes to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Is how much time are you spending reading your scriptures? How much time are you going to the temple? And honestly, I mean, I have always been active in the church. I've loved the gospel of Jesus Christ, but I read my scriptures here and there. I didn't read them all the way through. And it took me a while until it was 2020, right? When everything kind of went crazy. And I remember listening to the apostles talk at conference, and I would listen to conference and then I wouldn't listen to it after that. I would just hear it one time and be done. And it was 2021 when I was listening to President Nelson, and he was like, these are the latter days. Like, you need to build a firm foundation. And I was like, he's right. Like, what have I been doing? I haven't been doing these type of things. Like, I mean, I love the gospel. I'm serving in my callings, but am I all in? And so I feel like at that moment is when I personally decided to change. It was almost like an outer body experience where God was telling me, I need you to do something. I'm calling you to something, and I need you to live higher and holier. And so ever since then, I remember going to my bishop and I was like, hey, bishop, I'm all in. Give me a calling that, because I don't think we were in callings at the time. It was 2020, things were kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need a good calling. I need to do this. And he was like, I'm so glad. Like, I have all this stuff for you. And I started going to the temple more, and I started studying my scriptures more. And those type of things, like that decision, I really feel like has changed me as a person and who I am and what I do. I don't think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be online what I'm doing right now and teaching, because there's people that will come after you, right, with things and be like, hey, did you hear about this? And did you hear about this? And it's like, yeah, I did, but I have a firm foundation, and I have read the scriptures, and I listened to my prophet and our church leaders, and this is what I believe to be true. So that is something that I did.
I had like a similar experience to you as well with this one. It's just like there was a switch where I just started making big changes in my life. Like actually at the beginning it was getting off of social media more, spending more dedicated time in the scriptures, like running without headphones in sometimes, like doing stuff that would push me, and just showing the Lord that I was willing and open to more revelation, more like soul expanding experiences. And it's difficult, but it's so amazing that once you get into the pattern, like it's a very hard, like steep uphill climb, I felt for me at the beginning. And then once I started getting into a pattern of like, okay, I just wake up at that time every morning and read my scriptures. That's just what I do. And I just try to make this time every month or whatever to go to the temple. I look back and I think like, wow, I can really see the difference. Like the Spirit is helping me see. Like I recognize his voice so much more now. Like I feel him inspiring me, which he was before, but I see his hand so much more apparently. And it's just kind of cool. Like I don't know even if that's like it's too base of a word to use, but it just kind of feels sparkly. Like it's just like, wow, this is so much better. And it's hard to explain to people who don't have that desire or don't want to do that yet. It's really hard to explain to them like, oh, what does eating more vegetables feel like? Oh, it feels amazing, and they're like, nah, I'm good. Like I got my Takis and I'm like, whatever. I can just snack on that, right? But it's like you have to try it. You just have to have enough faith to believe in the prophet or his apostles, or just in the words of Jesus Christ, or even Shayla Egan on this Shay baby on here, to just believe it for just a little bit, enough time to get into the habit and see. It's faith, and that's how we get our testimonies. We just have to do it. You have to try.
Yeah, the Lord loves effort. He really does. And we have to put the work in. Like you can't just expect him to do everything. He can meet us halfway, but we need to do the other half. And I do remember when I was at church, I was training, I think I just ran the Boston Marathon, and I was training for another marathon. And this lady comes up to me after church and she goes, how do you do it? And I was like, running? And she's like, well, just all of it. Like, how do you train for a marathon and be a mom and read your scriptures? And immediately the Holy Ghost told me, he said, if you can find time to train for a marathon, you can find time for him. And at the time, I mean, I was like, okay, because I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, but it seemed like I needed to put even a bigger effort. And if a lot of you don't know, I train for marathons. It's a lot. It's like you're running every day. You're getting about 7 miles in a day. You're doing strength training. You're eating. Like it is like a second job.
Yeah.
It's intense. And so I'm like, okay, I have that. I have to run carpool. I have to clean my house. I am prepping. How do I find time for him? And that's when I started listening to conference talks on my runs. I would listen to Come Follow Me's while I was doing the dishes. I was driving in the car and putting in scripture stuff. And so that was a way for me to find time for the Lord in my busy schedule. And so when people are asking, they're like, how can I find time? I work, I do this. And I'm like, find time, because he always has time for you. He will find time for you. So you find time for him.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of the scriptures of him saying his arms are always stretched out still. They're literally always open like this. And it's only us who turns away and needs to do something over here or walks away for a moment so that we can focus on this. And if we try and if we involve him in it, we can find ways to blend everything that we're doing in our life with Jesus Christ and his gospel. There is a way to make it just a part of us, interwoven into all the fabric of who we are. So I thank you so much for that testimony. I love that. Okay, so the third exploratory question. Tell me about a miracle you've seen in your life. How was the Lord's hand apparent?
Oh man. So I feel like my life, especially the past couple years, have had extreme miracles. And a lot of people expect the big miracles to happen. And sometimes when they do that, they miss the small miracles. And we had an incident with our daughter, of course, 2020, right? I just had a baby, and my daughter at the time was 4. And I have 4 girls, by the way. So this is my third child, Isla, and she wanted to go out and play with friends. And at the time, I was tired. Our baby was just a newborn, and I was nursing her. And I said, yeah, go out, go play. And what happened is that she was scootering and she didn't have a helmet on, and she fell and smacked her head on the cement curb. And so, I mean, at the time we didn't know. She came in crying, saying she got hurt, but she didn't remember how she got hurt. And we found a bubble behind her ear, and it was very hard to see. It was under her hair. It was clear. And I asked my husband, I'm like, should we take her in? It's the day before Thanksgiving. And so I said, what do we do? And he goes, let's find a place and just bring her in. Like, this is just, I've never seen something like this before. So let's get her in. So we got her into the doctor, and he thought she looked fine. She was coherent and talking. Her eyes weren't dilated. So we were about to leave, and she threw up all over. So he said, let me make a few calls. And he came back and he goes, they told me to send you home. And he goes, but if it were my child, you need to send them to the Utah Valley Hospital or Primary Children's. And Utah Valley was closer to our house. And right there, I call that a miracle in itself, because if he just sent me home, I don't know what would have happened to her. But we drove to Utah Valley, and they found blood behind her eardrum. And they said, can we do a CT scan? And I was like, yeah. So they do a CT scan. They came back, and he brought in another nurse with him, and he sat me down and he said, your daughter has a cracked skull and is bleeding in the brain. We're going to have to life flight her to Primary Children's, but you can't be life flighted with her because of COVID restrictions. And he goes, and I don't think she's going to make it through the night. And right there, I thought, what? Like, she's right here talking to me. How is she not going to make it through the night? And the lady that was with him was a grievance counselor to come talk to me about what was happening and what to ask the hard questions. And I was just kind of like, get away from me. Like, you're so nice to be here, and I know your job is hard, but my child's right here, and she's okay. She's talking to me. And so they life flighted her, and I picked up my husband on the way, and we drove up to Primary Children's, and we met with a group of neurologists, and they said only one parent could be there at a time because of the restrictions they had. And so I was the one that had to go home because I was nursing. And I remember that night, they said they were going to do cognitive tests through the night. And then that morning they were going to do a CT scan. And if it was not better, they were going to remove part of her skull to relieve that pressure. And so it was a really hard night. And then I remember that morning, knowing when she was going to get the scans, I was on my hands and knees in the bathroom, just crying and praying to God to cure my child. And I remember thinking I was helpless. There was nothing I could do as a mother to protect my child. And I had to give everything to God and Jesus Christ. Everything. It was everything. And then sure enough, after I finished that prayer, my husband called me crying, and he goes, she's going to be okay. She's a miracle. And what happened is when they did the CT scan, the blood completely dried. I mean, the doctor said they've never seen anything like that. And she was a walking miracle. And we spent Thanksgiving at Primary Children's, but 2 days later, we came home. And right when we got home, our neighborhood surprised us and made a full course Thanksgiving meal. And they colored things for my daughter, like all the kids gave to her. And I saw Zion right there. I saw the miracles. Even, I know we got our big miracle, which a lot of people I know don't get, but then seeing our ward get together and say, here's this meal. We love you. You are noticed. It was like, I just thought right there, I was like, this is what I kind of felt like the city of Enoch was kind of like, where this is what God wants. He wants us to serve one another and love one another. And that was a miracle in itself. And so experiencing those miracles and giving myself to God and giving everything to God was what really brought me close to him. And I have my best friend Kelsey lost her husband to cancer last year. And she told me she did the same thing, where she prayed to God with all her heart to save her husband. And he wasn't saved, but she goes, God is still good. He's still good, because she knows she'll get to see him again one day. And so if we put our trust in the Lord and give our full hearts to him and our burdens, he will lift our burdens. If we yoke ourselves unto him, he will carry those things with us. And that is my testimony, is that God is good, through the bad. He is there for us, and in small and big miracles.
What an amazing testament to him and his mercy and his power. And yeah, just juxtaposing like when we get the answer we want versus when we don't. And can we still like worship him and be grateful to him and trust him no matter the outcome? And when you were talking about big miracles and small miracles, like the biggest miracle of all is that your relationship with him was more solidified, was increased during that. And that is a miracle that can come from any circumstance that happens to us in our life, if we wait on him and we wrestle with him and we stick with him and engage in that difficult time, whether we get our answer or not. And I'm so happy for your family, and hearing what your ward did for you, like that like even brought like more tears to my eyes, because it was just so special. And that's what this life is about, is like being there for each other. And yeah, we leave, all of us leave this earth at different times, and the question is, what do the rest of us do for each other in the meantime? Right. And that was an amazing example. Thank you for sharing that.
It was great. And it's funny because I remember after I was so overwhelmed, and I remember praying to God, and I was like, what can I do to repay you for this miracle? And 2 weeks later, my bishop called me as the ward service compassion leader. And so through that, I was able to serve our neighbors, and I felt like I was able to give back when they needed my help. And that's what I love about the LDS Church, is that everyone is always willing to serve and give their time and not expecting anything back. And that is a testimony builder to me, that they love Jesus Christ enough to make sure you feel important as well.
I haven't ever thought about it that way. That's so true. It's so wonderful to have that. And I think when we think about testimony builders, we think, okay, do we know that Joseph Smith was a prophet? Do we know, like, how do we know these things? But you're talking about the fruits, right? You're talking about the fruits of living the gospel of Jesus Christ. What happens when you actually live your covenants? You turn into a person who brings joy and peace and happiness to others. And that's the truth. No matter what people say online, no matter, all the disparaging comments that come your way, like, that's the truth. You can see it in the lives of the people around you and in your own life as you change and learn and grow. It's amazing. Okay, that's our last exploratory. So we're moving you to the final question. Shayla, are you ready?
I'm ready.
We gotta be ready.
Oh man.
There's no time like the present. Here we go.
Yeah.
Shayla, why do you stay in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
It's interesting. I just had this conversation with someone online while I was thinking celestial, right?
Right.
And he was talking about like, why are you not looking up the truth? And why are you looking up this? And why are you choosing to stay? And I choose to stay because I have received personal revelation that I asked for. I got on my hands and knees and I prayed with all my heart and soul. And I said, is this the true church? Is this his true restored gospel of Jesus Christ? And I got my answer. And I am happy living the gospel principles. Like a lot of people say it's a church that's strict and we live by these rules. And I'm like, there's reasons why we have these rules. And it's because it makes you happy. We are anchoring ourselves to Jesus Christ. And when we learn about the restored church and the eternal truth, I get to be with my family forever. I get to be with my husband forever. And looking around, there is nothing better. And I choose to stay because Jesus Christ makes me happy. My family makes me happy, and knowing I get to be with them forever. Family is everything. Our church, everything evolves around family and Jesus Christ. And that's why I stay. That it brings me joy. And I think joy is a big thing here in our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's why I choose to stay, is so I can be with my friends, my family, and with Jesus Christ forever.
Shayla, thank you so much for your testimony, for your stories, and the insight into your life to help us see how we can make ourselves better with Jesus and bring that peace and joy into our lives no matter what comes our way. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Lindsay. You're amazing. Yes.
Okay, that episode was for me. I've just felt so weighed down recently with the negativity online, and it's just heavy. There's a lot of stuff coming at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints recently in the media and just people online. So when all this hate comes at us online, what can we do? How can we be peacemakers? How can we involve the Lord in more aspects of our life so that it just elevates us, that we can rise above these heavy, difficult, negative things that are swirling around us in this world? How can we do it? It's all a part of the work of staying in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, holding fast to your covenants. And sometimes maybe it feels like you're being dragged behind a boat on an inner tube, just like holding on for dear life. But we're here for it, right? We signed up for this. We promised we would. And so we will. And we are, and he will help us do it. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for helping me celebrate my 100th episode a few weeks back. I've still got the crate paper up because it's fun. Okay. Anyway, we love you. I love you. Thank you for your love and support. And thank you for staying with us. We'll see you next week.
The Why I Stay podcast is a faith-based podcast exploring the lives and experiences of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This podcast is not produced or endorsed by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but we do love that church. All rights reserved. And a great big shout out to Fast Sounds from Pixabay for the amazing and jammin' intro-outro music. Thanks, guys.